to Me Time with Ruby, episode 3. Gosh, I can't believe we're 3
Flying
weeks
by.
in. So you're with me, Amanda, and Charlotte here. So yeah, we usually start off with chatting about what's in the news, but it's been so busy in the shop with new summer and spring stock coming in. To be honest, I haven't really had much to do with the news, so I don't know what's going on in the world, Charlotte. What's going on?
Don't ask me. I mean, the only thing I could think was Red Nose Day, and I know that purely because I watch Morning Live on BBC, and they'd been learning this little Red Nose Day themed dance with Harry Styles every day. So I'd been kind of
Following that.
trying to follow that unsuccessfully. But yeah, so that's kind of the Red Nose theme that I know about. That's been in the news.
Oh, right, okay.
The extent of my media knowledge.
It's terrible, isn't it? Obviously the vaccines,
Yes.
because that's just taken over. I guess being slightly younger than myself, Charlotte, you probably haven't had yours yet, but I've had mine.
No, not kicked into my age yet.
Yeah. No, I had mine, and no touch wood, no effects. Touch wood.
My brother just had his. Oh, look, there's some wood.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
wood?
Okay, yeah.
My brother just had his, and he's feeling a bit poorly today.
Is he?
But I think everyone's reacting so differently,
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a bit of a sore arm, and I tried to milk it for a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks. I
And
can't
then
pick
Dave's
the
like,
box
hang
up.
on, I've been reading, and it says people have symptoms for about 24, 48 hours. I'm like, got
3
caught
weeks
out
later.
on that one. But yeah, I had mine at the end of February, and just really pleased to have, really.
I think it's such a relief for everyone, that this is starting to happen, because it almost makes you feel like maybe some normality will come back to the world. Even just a little bit, just getting the shops open. I mean, how wonderful will it be when Ruby Lala reopens her doors?
I know. Well, hopefully touch. But interestingly, I opened the door today because we had a click and collect, and the lady that came to pick up her order, she was just. I could see. I thought, is she going to wrestle past me to come and have a look in the shop? She was just desperate.
Yeah.
She said, "I'm just so desperate to come out and have a look and do some shopping and come and see you." And I think it's not just. I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of our customers, for Ruby Lala, it's not just about coming out shopping. It's about the experience.
Yeah.
We know most of our customers. We chat to them. Those that we don't, we're very nosy and we want to find out more about them. Because Farnham's quite, obviously because you live in Farnham, but quite a touristy town as well.
Yeah.
It's very historical, and we get a lot of people come to the castle for weddings and things like that. So we do get a lot of people that are just visiting for the weekend.
But I think certainly what I found, because I've only been here, it'll be 4 years this year. I moved over from Windsor, which is very touristy. This is nothing by comparison. This is heaven by comparison. To sort of how touristy that is. You can't move down the pavements half the time. Obviously Corona's been different sort of during this period. But what I noticed about Farnham is how friendly it is. And so when I first moved here, people would just talk to me in the street. I was like, oh my goodness, wow.
And do you feel that's heightened since we've had the lockdowns over the last year? I'm just thinking about, I remember it's quite amusing. We went out for a Sunday walk a few weeks ago, and we went past a couple, and normally we'd just go, hi, hello, or whatever, good afternoon, and you catch someone's eye, and then they want to stop and talk. It's like he was desperate for conversation, and it's like, oh, hello, are you out walking? It's like, yeah, and we're sort of trying to walk on, and they're still talking, and you think, actually, I think people are just desperate for, I think it's just made us realise. I'm not sure how long it'll last. I wonder if we'll go back to how things were pretty quickly.
Being very British and ignoring each other. Well, I think this is the thing. It's either brought out that very Britishness, or it's made us all very European, just want to hug each other even though we can't.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when I walk down the street, you have to do that thing around each other on the pavement. One of you has to risk your life walking into the road.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just don't even look at each other. People just walk past.
Yeah.
Or you get the opposite. My friend has a couple of dogs, and she says she goes into Frensham Ponds or wherever, and everyone just wants to talk to her. She's there on her own with her dogs, and maybe they think she's a bit lonely or something. I mean, she's not. She's quite happy. Suddenly everyone's chatting. So it definitely has made a difference, either one way or the other.
I think as well, I mean, we live in Frensham, and walking around the pond, we're very lucky to obviously just be within 10 minutes walking distance of the ponds. But what I also find, still, even though it's nice to speak to somebody, I still check out what people are wearing, even when they're out dog walking. I check them out. It's like a lady I walked past the other day had a beautiful coat on with a lovely print, and I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to get something like that.
Yeah.
Really la la. You know, and I'll scan right down to the boots.
Yes.
You know, and you know, there's some interesting attire.
Well, the inspiration is everywhere, isn't it? And I think somewhere like Farnham, you have such a variety of people that, as you say, you know, you've got people who come from all around the world to come to Farnham. Obviously not at the moment, but you know, you do have such a sort of wealth of inspiration here with people from all different backgrounds and cultures and countries, and it's so interesting. And that's the other thing I really noticed about this place, is just the style is, I mean, you've got your classic, you know, kind of yummy mummies, and that's fabulous because they always just look amazing, don't they? From head to toe, they always look perfect.
Yeah, they just throw their hair back in a
I mean,
ponytail,
I don't.
walk outside the door,
I'm a
and they
mummy.
look great.
Yeah, I'm not the yummy mummy one. I'm the one who's kind of slogging up in my PJs. But you know, but then you kind of have that. But then you've got the college here as well, and you have the most eclectic styles with the students. So it's fabulous.
Yes, because we got the art
Yeah.
university, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
brilliant.
people come from all over the world to
yeah.
study there, don't
Yeah,
they? So
that's it.
yeah.
It's
No,
fantastic.
it's really, really interesting. So we put our blog out again
Yes.
last week, and we were saying that we were going to talk a bit like, I'm going to say this, but probably you'll have better terminology of how to put it, but something about looking young. So I've been
Yes.
desperate all week to hear what you've got to
Waiting
say.
on tenterhooks for the blog.
Yeah, I wish I brought my notepad actually, but I'll
It's
have
alright,
to
I've
just
got
keep
mine.
watching this episode over and over again. I wonder if it'd be the most watched episode of.
Oh yeah, 100 million,
time we've
I
read
reckon.
it.
100 million on the first day. It's alright, I've got my notes this week, so we can actually talk about the things
Okay.
that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, yes, 'cause
Yes.
Charlotte forgot. She was mortified last week when you forgot your notes. weren't
Yeah,
you?
and then you said, what are we going to talk about next week? I was like, I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that one, and I wasn't going to
Yeah.
let that one go. So yeah, tell me, how do we look young?
Okay, so youthfulness is very different to looking young, although they've got, you know, the kind of similar word in there. It's all about having that youthfulness and that kind of refreshed look that your teenager has, regardless of whether they rolled in at 3 a.m. or not. There's just always that glow about them. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, certainly, I mean, I'm in my 30s, so I can't speak for older than myself, but I can speak for myself in terms of how I felt in my 20s to how I feel now. And you start to become aware of the signs of aging. And as my mum would say, you don't look any different. And I'm not allowed to get older in her eyes. I'll never look older, but I know I am. You know, you get the wrinkles starting to show here and there and the grey hairs. You do, you know, you start noticing the signs. And actually, you can go one of probably 2 or 3 ways with that. You can either just accept it and kind of go with it and go, do you know what, this is life. You can fight it tooth and nail, and obviously there's so many different ways to do that now. You've got the Botox and the filler and the collagen and the various sort of skin stripping things, and or you know, or you can kind of find natural ways to start to just bring that youthfulness back into your look if you feel that it's starting to slip away a bit. Because I went through a phase last year. I was like, oh, there's so many grey hairs, and like foundation doesn't work on me anymore because it just sits in my lines and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Oh, I'm past caring about that now. You wait till you get to 54.
Do you know what? It can bring you down. And I mean, I know there's going to be sort of women kind of older than me maybe scoffing at this and going, oh, you don't know how young you are. And I do, but also we do all start aging, you know, well, from the moment we're born, technically.
Of
And
course,
so,
we're very fortunate to be aging.
Oh, well,
So,
and this
you
is
know,
what I've said in the
I
blog.
often remind myself
Yeah.
of that. If I have a bit of a moan about, oh, you know, next birthday, well, actually next birthday coming up in a few weeks, I'm going to be 55, but actually I feel very privileged to be able to get here.
Absolutely.
So there
And that's
is that
exactly
to
what I said
check
in the
with all
blog.
the time.
Absolutely. I think it can really bring you down if you're not careful when you're looking around the media and all you're seeing are these sort of plump, youthful, you know, kind of plump skin, plump, youthful sort of skin and beautiful sort of 20-year-olds and 18-year-olds, because that's what everyone's meant to look like. I think it can bring you down, especially, you know, when I'm on Instagram quite a lot, and I've kind of trained myself not to look at those things anymore. I want to actually be involved in the sort of real girl accounts where it's just people like me, you know, on social media. But if you're not careful, you can get brought down, I think, mentally, emotionally, by seeing that in the media all the time.
Yeah.
Speaking of the media,
Yeah.
you know, as we were, it's sort of everywhere, and it's getting better. But I think we can kind of boost ourselves up from from the inside, as it were, with how we dress and with how we feel about how we dress. And quite often I think you sort of see as women get a bit older, maybe they start to kind of cover up a bit. You know, I've had 2 kids. I don't necessarily want to have my stomach showing. I might want to cover it up a bit. But what you don't want to do is go to the extreme and then start over layering and over covering yourself, because then that's just going to bring you down even more, because you're going to be like, oh well, I shouldn't be looked at, or I don't look like that, so no one look at me, I'm just going to wear this giant black coat and my leggings and that's it. Don't do that.
you know, it breaks my heart sometimes, and I don't quite know. I mean, I come from a psychology background, but you know, that's something I've sort of, I would say left behind, but I think it's always with you. But you know, the times I have customers in, and you know, it breaks my heart when they put something on and they look beautiful in it,
and they
can't see it, and I just feel so sad, you know. And you know, a dear friend of mine came in, and she sort of lives in navy blue and black.
Yes. Because
she's perhaps carrying a bit more weight than what she wants to carry. And she put some, I can't remember what it was now, she put some trousers on, and I think they were a lighter colour. They were really lovely. I don't know if they were the magic pants or something, with the top, and it looked amazing. She looked the best I'd seen her look for a long time, and she just couldn't see it, and that just broke my heart.
I think it's almost like you just have to trust the people around you when they say that. When you get into that kind of slump.
Some people though are polite, aren't they?
They are, but if it's a friend of yours, you know, as in, if you put something on and a friend of yours says that you look amazing, I think if you're in that slump and you know you're in that sort of style slump, you maybe just have to trust your friends and just kind of take a chance. And I think it's just taking that first step out of the style slump that can start to bring you back into that sort of youthfulness. So just a few of the things that I kind of decided would be kind of good to talk about was things like a boxy sort of outfit. So, you know, people wear those straight up and down dresses or real boxy boyfriend blazers, those sorts of things that are coming in at the moment. What's really key for women kind of who are maybe not that comfortable in their figures or with their aging process, where, you know, wherever they're at on that journey, having something with a little bit of shape. So it could be the tiniest nipped in waist, or just a button that crosses just a little bit further over so it kind of comes in slightly, something a bit tailored, rather than the big old boyfriend jackets and the big old slouchy mom jeans, which, because I mean, that's all you see on the streets at the moment with the teenagers. And I have to say, I wear my mom jeans, but I think ironically, I don't know, maybe because I am a mom, they're not elegant, they don't look nice, but they're just comfortable. But then equally, you know, you can put on a pair of lovely tailored trousers and suddenly you feel $1 million. Now I'll put on a pair of tailored trousers and be like, oh yeah, this is how I want to feel, not like that. I don't want to feel like an 18-year-old.
So maybe the slouchy stuff is just not having to think about it or worry about it.
Yeah,
or just,
absolutely. Because then, you know, you think, oh well, no one's going to look at me anyway. But the thing is, you know, yeah, that might be true, and perhaps you don't want people to look at you. That's absolutely fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't feel good in yourself. As soon as you put something on with just a little bit of a waist or a little bit of tailoring, you're going to feel better about yourself, and it will start to show on the outside. But you have to kind of make that first step sometimes. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong with your psychology background, but sometimes it kind of has to come from the outside first, if the inside's struggling to sort of catch up. And when you look in the mirror and go, oh, actually, I do look quite nice. You know, maybe there's just that little step towards a change. I have pulled a couple of bits just to show, but I mean, I can. What do you think? Should I do that now as I go, or
let's have a look at them.
So, in terms of a blazer, I just pulled this one of Ruby Lala's because this is perfect. It has this sort of natural crossover here. So rather than just hanging flat, like a boyfriend jacket would, it has this natural cross. It's not actually pulling you in, but it has the sort of look of it. Visually, it looks like it is. And it has this, you know, the little double-breasted buttons, which is perfect, and it is tailored. But again, it's not tailored to pull you in.
I suppose I'm sort of cringing a little bit. I know from my perspective, I'm, you know, from lockdown, I've sort of put on a stone and a half. Take that back off and me back to a size 10. At the moment I'm 14, so definitely 14 down the bottom. take me back to a 10 and I wouldn't worry so much about it. But I know at this size, which is sort of a 14, I guess pretty average. Maybe, I don't know, whatever your average is. But I really do, I have got big hips. So I've got a smaller waist.
Yeah.
But when you say nipping at the waist, I then imagine that I'm going to be emphasising my hips, and that worries me a little bit.
So this sort of thing won't do that because of the way it hangs straight down. Obviously, if you're kind of, I have a friend who's very, very, very tiny on her waist, and then obviously that accentuates her hips a lot more, and she does find she can't wear some jackets because it literally just sort of pinches down at the bottom. Something like this though shouldn't do that because of the length of it. It should sit in quite a nice position, and especially if you have it undone, then it doesn't really matter about the bottom half because it's just going to still give you that coverage that you want.
So you're saying sort of that crossover just makes an awful lot of
It
difference.
just brings the eye in, and that's what you want. So it's not actually doing anything physically in terms of putting you in, but it's drawing the eye in. So then that makes you look like you've just got a little bit of a nipped in.
And I suppose being a different colour as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it does have that tailoring, which is so flattering. It's a lot more flattering than just whacking on your massive boyfriend coat and covering everything up. And it's just it just kind of creates a little bit of shape.
I love when you do that.
Shape.
I wish I could do that.
Other versions of that would be things like not wearing a really oversized dress, but a bit like what you've got, having a little bit of shape there, kind of maybe under the bust, or something like a shift dress, something like that. Just something that's just going to still skim over, not cling, so you still feel like you've got that coverage, but is just going to create the image of a bit of shape rather than just straight up and down.
Okay.
So the next thing, when we're looking at things like how to create a more useful look, with this one you kind of almost have to do the opposite of the young, because they all go for their giant bits of jewellery. There's quite a lot of colourful, big, plasticky.
I used to wear a lot of what I'd call real costume.
And it's fabulous, and it's definitely got its place. But day to day, you kind of want to go a little bit simpler. And I just put this on because I thought this was so sweet. But just something that's just a little bit more toned down, chic, simple, pretty, but sort of fine, if you know what I mean. A bit like, you've got your necklace on, the silver necklace there. Gold is very, very flattering for slightly older skin as well. So something gold, something fine, and just something that you would just wear day to day. Obviously, if you're going to a party, get the costume jewellery on. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you had that beautiful one on
the sparkly teal one. Yeah,
I think it's
stunning.
Really, really good.
Yeah. The problem that can sometimes happen is that when you're trying to detract from your face, your bum, whatever it is you're trying to detract from, you end up.
Say it as it is.
Oh well, I don't know, but whatever. Everyone's trying to detract from something. On a bad hair day, I'm trying to detract from the frizz. So I'll put on something, that's kind of like, oh, look at her necklace, it's so pretty, rather than, oh, look at her giant fuzzy head. The problem is, it can sometimes come across as a bit obvious, because if you're looking uncomfortable in your outfit, but then you've got this giant sparkly necklace on, I don't know, that it kind of has, it doesn't quite sit right. Whereas if if you're dressed all in navy or all in black, because you kind of want to, as you were saying with your friend, wear those darker colours, but you've got a really beautiful sort of fine piece of jewellery on, it kind of gives that little innate confidence. It's like, I don't need anything else, I've got my jewellery, this is it. Rather than being like, I'm so confident, look how confident I am, and sort of trying. It's a kind of quiet confidence, that one, that comes through, and then that gives you that sense of youthfulness again. In terms of trousers, I've put these on just because I thought they're a little bit fabulous, obviously, for a start. But what we don't want is to do that cinching in thing that people do, where you get your muffin top. That is the dreaded.
Good old muffin tops. That's because I like muffins.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
That's why I got that.
Oh, a muffin.
No, apparently you get that, don't you, anyway, when you get older? It's
so,
just
absolutely,
maybe for a size 10 you're
But you don't have to have the muffin top. The muffin top, that's such a terrible, terrible phrase. The muffin top.
I know what you mean with
I
muffin
know,
top.
it's really not good, is it? But the reason people get that is because they pulled in too tight.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily weight, age, or whatever, it's just how
Yeah.
you're wearing something.
Absolutely. The problem is people can then sort of look at themselves and feel unattractive. So they're like, well,
Mm.
what's all this? Look at all this, and kind of, and sort of grab at it. And the truth is, after the age of 30, it's harder and harder to keep the weight off. You do, you lose muscle mass more
It's all
quickly.
downhill for you
You
there,
put weight
Charlotte.
on more quickly. I know, it's like aging, but
What a privilege.
but actually finding ways to dress your body will give you that innate confidence, and that in turn gives you that refreshed, confident glow. So tailored trousers, not your pulled in tight skinny jeans with a belt that rips everything in and kind of because you think, oh, the youngsters are doing it. Don't do it, don't fall into the trap. A really nice fitting pair of jeans that fit you, that aren't going to cling everywhere.
Mm.
What you don't want is when you stand up and you've got all those ripples all down the
Yeah.
back. I wasn't referring
No,
to
I've got
you,
leggings on,
Amanda.
you don't get ripples with leggings.
Do you know what I mean?
Just
though, when
teasing.
they're too
Yeah.
tight and everything kind of gets sucked in, but it doesn't work. Sucking in doesn't work. What you want is to sort of skim over anything like that. So I'll stand up because they're just fabulous. I just love the way they move. Something like that is gorgeous. Elasticated waist, very comfortable. Yeah, it's all about comfort, quite frankly. When you get to a certain point in your life, isn't it? I don't want to be uncomfortable. These are stunning, lovely, lovely kind of pair of tailored.
So I love that colour.
Yeah.
Because I would like put some gold pumps with them.
Yeah.
I would sort of
You can put colour with this.
Yeah.
And that's what's lovely.
White or
So these would be perfect because obviously, as you can see, they're going to skim over hips. They're going to sit in the right place, so you're not going to get a muffin top. And again, these, they're
those are going in the basket then.
these are so these are great.
I love those.
You've got your flare, which kind of brings you out at the other end again, rather than if you do have the hips and aside from the fact that you're incredibly lucky because I'm straight up and down like a 10-year-old boy, you do have obviously that sense of curve there.
It's funny you should say that because it's always the same, is it? What you've got.
Yeah,
You
you always
it's
want
like
someone
the
else
ladies
has
that
got.
come in saying,
Oh.
I just hate my big breasts.
I'd kill for a
I
curve.
just love to have a bigger
Bigger
breast.
bust.
Yeah.
I know, honestly, I'm just
But
women
and
with curves.
hips, I'm saying
Oh.
my hips have been the bane of my life, and you're saying you'd love to have some. I mean,
Oh,
they're just.
I'll have them. But the thing is, when you do have bigger hips, what you don't really want is to taper down to nothing. You want actually, and thank goodness for the flare coming back, or the
Yeah.
70s, because that's going to give you a lovely shape. And again, it's going to sit in the right place. It's not going to be heaved up sort of to the middle and yanked in. It's not going to be sitting so low, like it used to be, sort of early 2000s, and it was the very drop waist, and that's another way of getting a muffin top, but just a lot lower down.
Yeah.
So that's going to sit beautifully. So yeah, something like that that's just going to fit beautifully.
It's funny because you're
yeah.
explaining
Mm.
why that looks nice, and yet I remember I suppose a couple of years ago buying a pair of black flares from another shop, and then having these ones, and just knowing when I put them on that they look right, but not knowing why.
Why,
It's a bit
yeah.
like the colours. Sometimes I put colour on and think actually that looks really nice,
Yeah.
but not necessarily have had my colours done, but. And then another top that I think, actually that's not right,
Not
and it might be
quite.
the colour or
Yes,
the style, but you just
absolutely.
know at some level that that's not right for you.
I think we do know, but and that comes down sort of back to that idea of people can lose their way with style, and that's why they can end up feeling maybe older than their years because they're dressing older than their years because they don't know what else to do. So, and speaking of colour, what you were just saying about your friend who was wearing a lot of dark colours, a lot of very dark colours is so draining, especially on older skin.
Dark colours are fine, but
Yeah.
within moderation.
But they can be, if all you're doing is wearing dark, it can be incredibly draining. You need to add a little bit of sort of something to it. So wear all your black, get your scarf on, get a colourful scarf, a beret, just something that's that's going to give a little bit of pop around your face.
I love that word pop.
Yeah,
I'm
a
using
little
it so
pop around
much,
your
and
face.
just giving myself permission to have a bit of pop.
Pop,
in there.
exactly. Just a little bit of vibrancy, just to give you a lift. My mum, too, I won't say how old she is, but she will never wear
Go on,
black.
tell us.
No. She will never wear black around her face. And And she's right, you know, because actually I think she looks amazing in black because she's just got amazing colouring and she can wear anything, but she just won't. And actually, for the older skin, she's right. But as soon as she puts a pink, a coral, anything, it livens everything up and everything looks sort of a bit bouncier. And I just thought this dress was perfect.
I love that colour.
Yeah. You know, and something like this would just be ideal for a woman, you know, who kind of feels a little bit maybe uncomfortable in her skin still, or like in her style, but just is willing to try something a little bit daring. Because it's got, you know, it's got the cover up on your arms. You've got a nice crossover here, so it's very, very flattering on the bust. It comes in at the waist, so you've got the shape, and all this stuff is going to detract from...
I was just going to say a lot of detraction from...
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is just, it's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
I love
fabulous.
it.
It's a lovely pop.
I love it.
The last thing was just the glasses and your eyewear. That's the sort of key one, really, for so many women. And I say in the blog...
You're trying to get the baby off
I
now.
am, yeah.
I'll just sit here and watch you struggle.
Eyewear is one of those things that you can get your glasses and then 5 years later realise you've got the same glasses and that you haven't updated them at all. And the same with sunglasses. The thing is, in that time, you could have had a baby or 2 or 3, you know, and your face would be a potentially different shape. You could have lost weight, put on weight, you know, natural, as aging naturally tends to kind of bring the cheeks in a bit, you get some fabulous cheekbones. All these things can completely change whether or not you suit your glasses.
So 10 years ago, a style of glasses actually may not suit you so much now.
Yeah, and it could, and that again, that's another thing that can definitely refresh your look. Get down to Specsavers, and you know, grab yourself a pair of specs. Get down to Ruby Lana for a nice pair of sunglasses. And I love these because they've got the little bumblebee and the Gucci stripe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
Gucci inspired stripe.
Gucci inspired stripe. Well,
we have to be correct here.
But you know, just something like that that's just, it's on trend. It's a beautiful shape as well.
And actually, it's interesting because each year, well, a few years ago, I remember going on holiday, going to the airport, getting some lovely designer sunglasses. Within 6 months, they were scratched to pieces.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've started now just getting my ones each year at Ruby Lala.
Absolutely.
2 or 3 pairs, and I just change them with the outfits. And
mine are constantly scratched.
Yeah. Okay, so what's on for next week then, Charlotte?
So next
obviously
week,
we don't know what's going to be in the news, we'll have to know that one, but what are you going to bring?
Hopefully some good news.
Next week?
So next week we're going to be just looking at how to look put together. So that is
Put together.
a little bit of a holy grail for some. You know, that idea of just being able to leave the house and look like you meant to, not just fell out of bed and dragged yourself out like I do most of the time. So yeah, just a few simple tips and tricks on how to look put together. Yeah.
Well, you say simple,
with
but
ease.
it's been really informative. It's really great. So yeah, that's brilliant. Okie dokie. All right, so that's the end of episode 3. So join us next week when I'll be back on the sofa with Charlotte. Take care, everybody. Have a good week.